The anime begins showing a ninja named Gabimaru, who has a very strong body and is almost unable to die. After being sentenced to death, he overwhelmed the executioners because his body was so hard that it could break swords. Even when they tried to burn him with a large fire, Gabimaru was still alive. After that, a female samurai named Sagiri decided to investigate him. She asked about his origins and questioned why Gabimaru couldn't die. When Sagiri saw his execution process firsthand, she concluded that Gabimaru still wanted to live. Therefore, he was asked the reason why he could be like that. Gabimaru said that he was Iwagaku's best ninja. He was recognized by the village chief and was married off to his daughter. However, his daughter's attitude did not suit him. If it continues like that, he is worried that his strength will be dulled. However, when Gabimaru tried to leave the village, he was framed by the village chief and captured by all his subordinates. After getting the necessary information, the samurai and executioner from the Animaan clan is ready to punish him. Unlike the previous executioner, Sagiri has special abilities and can kill Gabimaru with a single attack. Gabimaru could feel that. That's why he tried to avoid the attack and fight back with his ninjutsu. Because of her work, Sagiri often saw humans who died in front of her. Therefore, she could tell that Gabimaru was lying about one thing. He actually loved his wife very much. He wanted to stop making a living as a ninja and wanted to live with her like a normal human being. At first, he thought that the village chief would understand his wishes, but it seemed like it would never materialize. While showing the warrant, Sagiri said that her wish could be realized. In the letter, it was written that any crimes would be forgiven. But the condition is that she must go to a mysterious island called Shinsenkyo. There she was asked to compete with other prisoners in search of an elixir that could grant immortality. Once a storyteller on death row asked to be beheaded as he told a story, his father Sagiri accepted his request. He cut him down perfectly without causing any pain or emotion. This motivated Sagiri to be like her father. But even now, she hasn't gotten used to her job. Every time she punishes someone, she has doubts and fears that she will cause suffering. Before going to the island of Shinsenkyo, every death row prisoner must pass the selection process. The guards explain that there is a mission they must carry out, which is to go to Shinsenkyo and bring back the elixir of immortality. During the mission, they will be accompanied by a supervisor. If they break the rules or do anything out of the ordinary, the supervisor will summon them immediately. In addition, if they return without an overseer, they will still be punished or will not be repatriated from the island. Due to the limited capacity of the ship and the number of Animaan clans, they were ordered to reduce their numbers by killing each other. Gabimaru protested the order. While the others were attacking each other, he asked the shogun to use another method, but they didn't listen to him. Someone was ordered to kill him in order to pass the selection. Gabimaru didn't want to kill anyone, but in order to survive, he was forced to kill everyone who dared to challenge him. Even though his hands were still bound, Gabimaru could attack all his opponents in a brutal way. He scared the guards because his abilities were on a different level. While Sagiri understood his feelings, after seeing the battle he realized that what he needed was not courage to face fear, but determination to carry the burden of the lives of those who had been taken by him. The villains and their guards had started to enter the island area. There they found an abundance of plants from different habitats and species. Upon arrival, Gabimaru immediately cut the ropes. Sagiri couldn't let him do whatever he wanted. She forced him to follow the rules and wear his bonds again. Then while Gabimaru was tying his own hands, suddenly another villain attacked him. The criminal was left untied and allowed to use a weapon to kill the other criminal. Gabimaru felt that the treatment of him was unfair. The other supervisors also thought that Gabimaru was too rigid, so he was placed in the lowest rank. Despite this, Gabimaru still obeyed his orders. He fought the villain with his hands tied. Even though his hands were tied, he was still able to win and defeat the criminal. After the criminal he was watching died, his supervisor warned that the situation there would soon change. Just as they were heading towards the beach, there were some people who were already committing dangerous acts. They didn't care about obligations or rules and were just trying to survive in their own way. Upon learning of this, Gabimaru decided to attack his supervisor. Rather than being hindered by troublesome rules, he prioritized the mission of finding the elixir of immortality. But when Gabimaru intends to kill Sagiri, he is reminded of memories when he was still with his wife. These memories make his heart hesitate. Even when Sagiri could no longer resist, he was unable to kill her and looked like he was tormented. Gabimaru thinks that it is his weakness, whereas Sagiri considered it a seat of strength. Therefore, Sagiri ignored his actions. If Gabimaru regretted and wanted to fight for his life again, Sagiri wanted to see it. When everyone continued their journey, suddenly strange insects and creatures with terrible appearances appeared. They looked like a combination of animals and Buddha statues. Although the shapes were unrealistic, Gabimaru could conclude that the creatures were very dangerous. Therefore, he was thinking of running away from there. But since the creatures had surrounded him, he decided to focus on fighting and not think too much about it. While Gabimaru was fighting, Sagiri only saw it from a distance. She struggled to fight back and was confused by the situation. Gabimaru didn't want to care about her, but his body moved on its own as if he wanted to save Sagiri. Those who were originally in a hurry have now considered relaxing a bit. Gabimaru had only briefly investigated the island, but he found nothing promising. While searching for foodstuffs, he instead found many samurai who turned into flowers. The only way to find clues to the immortality potion was to check the ecology of the monsters scattered on the island. They must know how the monster can live in that place. Later in the afternoon, Genji gave orders to Sagiri to return to the mainland. Her sword skills were indeed extraordinary, but only limited to testing swords and executioners. Genji felt that Sagiri was still not strong enough and had limits as a woman. At the same time, a samurai named Tenza and a prisoner named Naruga were trying to escape from the island. Because the place was filled with monsters, it was impossible to get off the island even using a large boat. The number of ships that ran aground was not only from that year. Most of the ships were sent from several years ago. Although many samurai had already fallen victim, Tenza and Narugai chose to continue fighting. As a true samurai, Tenza is determined to save Narugai because she is not a bad person like the others. He was just a victim of the samurai who tried to exterminate his clan. After much effort, they finally find a boat to escape the monsters, but in the end they ended up back on the island again. At night, Sagiri had a chance to talk to Gabimaru. Unlike Genji, Gabimaru considers Sagiri as a strong figure, whether it's his heart or instinct that influences him. While in prison, Gabimaru felt that Sagiri was stronger than him. These words made Sagiri decide not to go home even though Genji forced her. When Genji was advising Sagiri, he was attacked by a giant villain named Roroda. The attack made him immediately bounce and bleed heavily. Gabimaru immediately faced him while Sagiri looked for ways to stop Genji's bleeding. Apart from being large, Roroda's physical strength also exceeds Gabimaru's strength. Therefore, he asked Yuzuriha for help because he could not face it alone. Even though they are both ninja, Yuzuriha doesn't dare to fight him. He instead made Gabimaru fight alone while watching the fight casually. To face a giant like that, Gabimaru pulled out the various moves he had mastered, but all the attacks he mobilized did not work. Besides, fighting at close range was very dangerous. If the attack for Roroda hit him, he felt there was no way he could survive. On the other hand, Genji handed his sword to Sagiri after seeing her determination and will. He wouldn't tell Sagiri to run away again. When Gabimaru was almost hit, Sagiri immediately helped him. Although his body was hard and very difficult to slash, but if attacked between the cracks of the bones, the Roroda could still be defeated. Therefore, they worked together to attack his legs to lower his head, but it didn't work and instead sent her into a rampage. When Roroda went on a rampage, Gabimaru was hit by a fatal attack. It left him unable to move to avoid her attacks anymore. Sagiri was inexperienced on the battlefield, but once her doubts were gone, her swordsmanship could surpass that of any master swordsman. However, even though her swordsmanship could keep up with Roroda, she had yet to find an opening to cut off his head. Then Gabimaru found an extreme way to fight him. He used fire moves in all directions so that the forest caught fire and made his opponent smoke poisoning. That way, Roroda couldn't stand up so Sagiri could slash him accurately. Tama and Shobai met two beautiful girls, relaxing in the middle of the forest. Although they look beautiful, one of them can turn into a man. When the monsters went to the fire, Gabimaru and the others immediately went in the direction of the monster. There they found an empty village and met a small child. Gabimaru and Sagiri immediately chased the little boy, while Yuzuriha fought the plant creatures that protected him. Even though his body is small, the child has physical strength that is different from ordinary humans. But when Gabimaru cornered him, the child cried, like an ordinary human child. The creature guarding the child begged them to let him go. In exchange, he would escort them to the village and also provide information about the elixir of immortality. Gabimaru and the others couldn't believe his words. But after being told that there was a bathhouse there, Yuzuriha was even excited to come to his village. Apart from providing baths, the plant creatures also gave them drinks and fruit. While the others were focused on eating, Gabimaru was not interested and chose to listen to information about the potion of immortality. For those residents, Shinsenkyo is the abode of God. Beaches and forests are the outermost part. The village is located in the central part. Meanwhile, the central part, which is located in the mist, is the place where the elixir of immortality is located. However, that place is guarded by an immortal creature called Tenza. Her figure was beautiful and perfect, but her strength was on another level. Everyone who landed onto the island would definitely be punished by him. And for those who have received punishment, they will turn into flowers and become the source of the creation of Tan. After hearing this story, Gabimaru went to the bathhouse to wash all his wounds. Together with Sagiri, they also accompany Mako's small child they met and teach her the correct way to use the equipment in the bath. From the start, Tenza was a street child who relied on stealing to survive. Then his life changed drastically after a samurai named Sean took him as his student. In the present, Tenza and Narugai are trying desperately to avoid a very strong enemy. Apart from being strong, the enemy also has immortality, which makes him unable to die. By attacking his neck and legs, they had plenty of time to escape. Tenza can also meet Sean or the samurai who has been training him. Because her task was finished, Shin had planned to go home. but he found no current that could carry him away from the island. By working together, maybe they can get through. But before that, Sean asks Tenza to explain why he is protecting criminals. Depending on the reason, Sean said he could immediately execute him. Tenza explains that Nurugai did not commit a crime. The reason why he wanted to help her was because he felt the same superiority and potential that Sean felt about him. After that, they looked for ways to avoid enemies and find ways to overcome them. Not long after, the enemy who had just attacked Tenza had recovered and found the three of them. Sean managed to save her student's life, but she couldn't counterattack because her neck had already been hit. At that time, only Tenza could face him, but his strength was still not enough to defeat such an immortal enemy. In the end, he decides to risk his own life so that Sean and Nurugai have a chance to escape. While the others were resting, Gabimaru decided to enter the Horai alone. Then when he arrived in front of the gate, he met someone who had previously defeated Tenza. Even though he looked like a human, Gabimaru realized that the figure in front of him was not human. Initially, Gabimaru was told to leave. However, when Gabimaru asked about the immortality potion, without saying much, he immediately attacked him. Gabimaru was still able to withstand the attack. He is even able to corner his opponent with his fire moves. Gabimaru may be weaker than his enemy, but he never gives up and continues to attack continuously. After receiving many attacks, the enemy was still not dead. Instead, he turns into a flower monster that can emit lightning elements. Gabimaru intended to use his fire jutsu again, but he failed to do so because his body was no longer able to withstand all the injuries. At the last moment, Gabimaru felt that it was all just a dream. He was able to wake up from the dream and live a peaceful life with his wife. Even though it was only for a moment, he felt happy because he could see his wife again. Then he apologized to him because he might not be able to go home. As a ninja, he has been taught to inflict fatal wounds on enemies before he dies. He squeezed out all his life energy, regardless of his desires. But his enemy still had the strength to attack him once again. Luckily, Mei immediately came to protect him. Even though his abilities were not much, he managed to save Gabimaru from death. When the others found out that Gabimaru had gone to Horai, Sagiri and the others immediately went looking for him. On the way, Hoko gave information that Tencent was one of the hermits. Meanwhile, the residents of Horai who are called aesthetics are holding a meeting while drinking a liquid called tan. The next day, Gabimaru meets another explorer. When they meet, they are wary of each other and are ready to fight, as their supervisor Fuchi restrained them from fighting. Rather than having a pointless fight, he chose to gather information without having to fight. Because his body condition had not yet recovered, Gabimaru decided to invite them to work together. He gave information about the enemy he was fighting and the girl he was with. While they were discussing, Mei suddenly woke up with a more mature body. Apart from getting older, he can also talk. For saving him, Gabimaru thanks Mei. After that, he immediately asked about the immortality potion and asked about Tencent's weaknesses. On the other hand, Hoko explains to Sagiri and the others that Taiyo is the power that flows through everything. Tencent can control this power. Therefore, they are very strong and very difficult to beat. Even though Hoko had given an explanation, with their current understanding, they had difficulty digesting his words. Meanwhile, Xian can unconsciously sense Tao by feeling it. He could see around him even though his eyes couldn't see. At the same time, all the monsters came to everyone on the island. Apart from mindless monsters, Tencent also deployed Doshi, who claimed to be Tencent's students and right-hand men. After successfully getting out of the hole, Chobei and Toma immediately faced it. Toma can defeat mindless creatures easily. Meanwhile, Chobei is overwhelmed because his enemy is strong and can regenerate. When his condition was threatened, Chobei suddenly felt the Taiyo naturally. Apart from feeling it, he can also use the Taiyo that covers his entire body. When the Tao in his body has increased, every attack he makes becomes very deadly. Even though his opponent could regenerate, he was able to penetrate him very easily. Elsewhere, Gabimaru and Gentetsuza are still dealing with monsters. While fighting, they learn to understand the Taiyo from Mia's little explanations. Not long after that, one of the Doshi sent by Tencent immediately came to see Mei. After centuries of her whereabouts unknown, Mei was asked to return to Horai because they really needed her. In fact, Mei has the same origins as Tencent. For him, humans are nutrients to continue living. Even so, Gabimaru didn't really care about it. Seeing that Mei didn't want to come with them made him move to defend her. Each Tencent can turn into a man or woman as he pleases. Meanwhile, Mei couldn't do it. That's why he was treated badly by them and expelled from the Horai area. Even though they can't turn into men, the Doshi who study at Tencent really need them as males. They need Miue as their co-star. Knowing this made Gabimaru very angry. Gentetsuza was so fed up that he felt like vomiting. Without further ado, Gabimaru immediately attacked him with his fire jutsu. However, the attack did not work because his Taiyo was very weak. To see the Taiyo, it requires a balance between strength and weakness. By touching Mei's hand, Gabimaru could feel that there was something in her hand, but just feel it. Then when he accepted his own weakness, in an instant, he felt all the auras around him. In such a short time, Gabimaru's strength was already on par with Tencent. That's why the enemy in front of him couldn't possibly win. Sagiri's group had arrived inside the gate. Upon arrival, they immediately faced Tenza, known as Fukuju-kun, because the humans who came always mentioned the potion of immortality. Tenza told them that such a potion did not exist. There was only nutrition for plant creatures like them. Hoko and the flower humans are indeed approaching immortality. But if ordinary humans drink it, they will just turn into trees. Knowing this made Sagiri very surprised. Without the elixir of immortality, he was worried that Gabimaru would not receive forgiveness. Then, when Tenza was off guard, Yuzuriha used a substitution technique and carried out a surprise attack. The attack succeeded in hitting him, but when they were about to run away, Tenza suddenly rose again. By looking at his moves, Tenza could tell that Yuzuriha could see Tao. Therefore, he offered to teach her how to use it. For the first time, Sento unsheaths his sword, while Yuzuriha uses a slime rope technique which can cause injury to the target. But no matter how hard they try, it is still not enough to beat Tenza. According to Hoko, Tenza has a weakness in its stomach. If someone with a great Deo attacked him, he might be defeated. Incidentally, Sagiri has the ability to improve Teo instantly. He also has high matchability so that Tenza cannot regenerate. After the weakness was revealed, they all started working together to target Tenza's weakness. Sagiri immediately slashed at his weakness until his enemy fell and couldn't get up again. However, even though the enemy stops moving, that doesn't mean he is dead. When the flowers start to bloom, it turns out he can still turn into a giant flower monster. In order to protect Yuzuriha, Sento suffers a fatal attack, while Sagiri and Yuzuriha could only surrender because they couldn't fight him anymore. When the flower monster almost attacked the two of them, Sean immediately came there to save them both. Along the way, he had carried out various experiments on the aura emitted by his enemies. He also already had a powerful way to deal with such immortals. By controlling his inner aura, every attack he makes can weaken his enemy's Teo. This way, his regeneration ability can slow down and he has many opportunities to attack his weaknesses. Thanks to Sento's direction, they managed to kill the monster. However, because the wound was too serious, Sento could not survive any longer. Even so, he had no regrets. He looked so happy as he leaned against the arm of the person he admired so much. After their business was finished, they decided to immediately move away from that place and chose to rest in a safer place. At the same time, Gabimaru and his group were resting in the cave. At that time, there was something strange about his behavior. He seemed very wary of the people around him. It turned out that he couldn't remember everything that happened recently. He couldn't even remember his wife, who had been the motivation for his actions. The only thing he remembers is that he is the best ninja from Iwagakure. On the other hand, when Sagiri and Yuzuriha were talking about it, Yuzuriha felt there was something strange about Gabimaru's origins. Because ninja has the ability to create illusions. He assumes that the story of his past is just an illusion, so he doesn't dare challenge the village head. Hearing Yuzuriha's statement made Sagiri very worried. Even though he was a vicious murderer, Sagiri could feel that he was not a bad person. Therefore, he believed that Gabimaru would come back alive. This is the end of Jigo Kuraku. Thank you so much for staying in this channel and watching our videos. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so we can keep you updated with our latest contents. See you in the next video.